It's Yahoo Sports here on a Friday, and we're getting reaction on huge news yesterday with the WEC getting folded into the UFC. A lot of great fights on the way. Good question about the featherweight division. Jose Aldo's dominant. Kevin Iole's with us. I think this actually provides an opportunity for maybe guys not to be as hesitant to go down to the, I was going to call it the WEC. It's now the UFC in the 145 division. Some of the smaller 155ers. What do you think, Kev?
I think it's a good point. I mean, number one, the WEC was already running out of challengers for Jose Aldo. He's that good. I mean, this is a guy that, is top three in the world, maybe the top guy in the world, depending on who you're talking to. But certainly, Jose Aldo is a dominant champion. So they need to find challengers for him. So if you can, go ahead and find somebody out of the UFC that's at 55 that's kind of a marginal guy and move him down, I think that's a great move. And I think that'll help both that guy and Jose Aldo give him more credible challenge.
There's candidates out there in the UFC who could move down, so who do you have in mind?
I mean, it's hard to know how guys are going to be able to cut the weight, so this is all speculation on our part. But, one of the guys I guess I would say right off the bat is a guy like Jim Miller, who's really been on a roll in the UFC. He's 18-2 or 17-2, something like that right now. Won a lot of fights in a row, but he's not the biggest guy. And, you look at him and you say, hey, he could drop some weight and make 145 and still probably be a factor. So that's a guy I think that, maybe might be one to look at it. Joe Daddy Stevenson being another. Joe's had trouble at the very high end of the lightweight division. I know he fought on the Ultimate Fighter at 170. He'd have to cut, a little bit of his bulk. He is a pretty big guy. But I think Joe could do it, and Joe's got the skills to, you put him down at that weight class, maybe Joe's going to be a guy. Mark Bocek, another guy, it doesn't seem to me to be the biggest 155er in the world. It would seem to be reasonable, and he's a guy that's improving and coming on that I think, he might be able to make the drop down too. But, again, we don't know what their bodies are like and what the weight cuts are like for them, Steve. That's the big issue.
The guy I like, if he could cut the weight, and I think he's reached that level where he's not really going to break into the top 4 or 5 at 155 is Clay Guida. He used to fight at 145, but, clearly with the attention you get in UFC, you couldn't go down to the WEC. So I wonder if he'd consider it.
I certainly think that for a chance to fight a guy like Jose Aldo, let's be honest, is Clay Guida going to get a title shot at 155? Probably not, anytime soon. So, the fact that if you can say, hey, he's going to get a championship shot to fight somebody at 145, that might make him more inclined to try to do that. He's a pretty thick guy too, and, I would look at saying, hey, is the cut, going to be a problem? Maybe you have to cut some of that mane off the top of his head too, I get down. But, I think he'd be another guy that, and you can only imagine a fight with him and Jose Aldo, even if Aldo won the fight. I mean, Clay Guida is going to really put him to the test.
And this should put to rest any kind of catch weight or going up to 55 for Aldo, I think, for at least like a year and a half. Let him clear out all the 45s who are in what was the WEC and any candidates who could come down.
Yeah, I think that's, been Dana's philosophy is, clean out a division first, and once you've cleaned out the division, then I'll consider having you move up. I mean, I think it was somewhat of an indication that they think he might have done that by the fact that they were looking at maybe moving him up to 155, and they offered him the fight with Kenny Florian. But, it also may have been, hey, we know this guy's going to be a big star, and we want to get him on our show as opposed to the WC. But, certainly I don't think that Jose's long-term future is going to be as a featherweight.